All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Chris Anderson, NPC Bodybuilder here. So, we are 5 weeks out of the NPC Legends Classic in Las Vegas, Nevada, 7.5 weeks out of the Arnold Amateur. Saturday, January 10th, actually getting this video out on time. And this evening, we are repping Muscle Factory Gym in Tempe. If you're ever in the area, fantastic gym, great place to train. And they got my favorite colors, orange and black, so can't go wrong with that. As always, got to do the YouTube influencer thing. Don't forget to comment, share, like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. And I'm here to remind you to work, grow, and win. With that, let's get started. So super quick, start with some general health update and biofeedback, just kind of the subjective stuff, a bit of objective things too. You could call the blood work. So got a free lab panel through my employer early this week on Tuesday. Really simple panel, complete blood count, lipid panel, a couple other things like glucose, and they did like blood pressure and stuff like that. Overall, sitting in a pretty good spot and pretty happy. I had just trained legs the day before, pretty darn tough workout, so did had some elevated liver markers and LDH, which is like a tissue damage marker. Not surprised whatsoever that those are elevated, especially after such a tough workout. Not worried about that whatsoever. GGT, which is a better, internal marker there, was totally within range. So that was pretty much it. That was really out of range. HDL was a little bit low, which for me at this point in prep is usually a lot lower. It was at 29, and usually at this point in prep I'm at like a 12. So it gets really low when you're doing certain things at this point in prep. So I'm pretty darn happy about that. Blood pressure is in a really good spot here. You can see the numbers there. Fasted blood glucose also in a really good spot. Pretty much always is. My blood glucose runs pretty darn low. I pretty consistently wake up in the 60s. I don't think I have ever woken up over 100. If I wake up in the 80s, that's a bit high for me. I'm just pretty naturally hypoglycemic. Once we're about 3 weeks out, we'll do a comprehensive panel, do full everything, to kind of see where we're at. Obviously, we expect some things to be pretty skewed at that point. And then 2 to 3 weeks post show, we'll do another panel, the same thing, totally comprehensive. See if things are still messed up, they're a bit better, and that'll be kind of the baseline going into rebound and cruise, making sure we're totally healthy before we start anything crazy for the off season. Subjective stuff. I'm getting pretty fatigued, pretty tired. Totally to be expected at this point in prep. I was this tired starting like 10 weeks out last time, 10, 12 weeks out even. So it'll be 5 weeks out, and just now really feeling it. I'm pretty happy with that. Sleep quality, pretty darn good this week. Pretty easy time getting to sleep. And staying asleep, honestly, pretty good. All the internal drive factors, mood, focus, sense of well-being are really good. Internally, my gastric motility is down just a little bit. That's just due to one of the things I'm using this prep. So we'll talk about that. We do some fiber source to help keep things moving there. And then just a quick note on different health supplements that I use. I use pretty minimal and pretty basic stuff compared to a lot of people. Some people spend hundreds of dollars a month on health supplements, and if you need it, you need it. I personally don't. Most of my health supplements are based off of the big things that damage and let's be honest, kill bodybuilders. Cardiac stuff, kidney and liver health. So especially some cardiac things do run in my family, so I am really careful about that. That's why I track my blood pressure, blood glucose, that sort of thing. So you can see the list there. That's the stuff that I need to keep my blood work in a pretty good spot. So that's what I use. Quick comparison. This is from 6 weeks out. I'm not going to spend a long time on this, but I just want to have this in comparison. This is what we had last week. So you'll see these photos were up in the video last week, and see was in a pretty good spot. I'm a bit tighter now. So this is my fastest check-in from last week. Actually, about 8 days ago. I checked on a Friday last week and checked in Saturday this week. And then here's today. Weight was up just a little bit. That was really due to the gastric mobility stuff. Just holding on to a little bit more food contents, but minor changes for sure. But we can see a little bit sharper, a little bit more detail in the glutes. Not very much at this point. Obviously, waking up really flat, but in a good spot. If you're not completely flat by the end of prep, you're still going to be fat on stage. Posing was a little bit better this week for this check-in too, at least in my opinion on some of these poses, especially like the side poses, some of those front poses. Pretty happy with that. Stayed on the legs a little bit better for these. You can see a little bit more separation in the quads in there, a little bit more width in the front lat spread, a bit more lat thickness, for the lats for the front double. So pretty happy with that. Same thing with the back poses and ab and thigh. I'm playing around with this new variation of ab and thigh. I'm trying to show a little bit more separation of the quads, the rec fem there. Doesn't show like quite as much quad sweep in that front leg, but we're just playing around with it. Gonna have another posing session with Cody here on Monday, and that'll be one of the things that we play around with and tweak. So once again, just quickly going through last week's post-workout pictures. This one was 2 days after the check-in from last week. So you can see the weight there. I was below 190 there as well. Obviously more full and everything. Had better lighting for these photos. I'm going to go really quickly through these. You can pause these and if you want to look at them more. And here's today's post-workout pictures. I want to show these specifically from today because then it shows actually the same day, difference between being flat and not fed. And drier versus having, in this case, 3 meals in me. I trained after 3 meals today. And it's an obvious difference, obviously, more fullness and everything there. I was pretty happy with the posing here for post-workout. I sent all these pictures to my posing coach, Cody, and he gave really good feedback. He was pretty happy with these. Obviously, some minor tweaks still to be done, but pretty happy. We can see more vascularity coming in through the back, a bit more rotation in those side poses. He actually told me I was rotating a little bit too much in that side chest. So we just got to find the happy medium there. Stayed on the legs a lot better with these poses. Front lat spread was posed better. Pretty much everything was better with these poses here. Again, seeing more back vascularity in both those back poses there. Still playing around with that ab and thigh, and had a lot better separation in my quads for that most muscular. I've tried a hands clasped most muscular. I absolutely hate it. I know my coach is a fan of that style of pose. I'm not. I need to show as much width as I possibly can in that pose. In the hands clasp, I come in narrower as opposed to being wider. I have pretty darn good abs, so I want to show that in that pose too as well. Not a lot of people can hit the hands on hips one as well and hit it and have that be their better version. So the fact that I can, I think that's a little bit something different. I think it presents pretty well on stage. And for whatever reason, I can pose my legs better in that style too. So that's what I use. Training, still doing Game of Bomb. Just started week 3 today. Game of Bomb gets pretty high in the volume, and we want to avoid that, not because high volume is necessarily bad or anything like that, but we just want to keep it the same. So instead of going up to the 4 or 5 working sets per movement that John has written in it, just capping it at 3 on the upper body days, and we'll play around with that as it goes, just based off of pump and the feedback that I give Tommy throughout the rest of the week and next week. We did drop all intensity techniques across the board for all muscle groups starting this week. Last week we had already dropped it for the leg movements, especially quads. Leg volume came down a bit, and instead of training to failure, we're going to do just 1 rep in reserve for all those sets. Just trying to keep them from getting a bit too flat, try to keep a little bit more fullness in them, and just reduce the overall systemic fatigue. Intensity for all the upper body stuff is the same, just straight sets to failure. Nothing special there. Cardio did go up starting today. Went up to 40 minutes, 6 times a week, fasted, same exact modalities. It's just part of digging for that last level of conditioning for prep and get to the final product. So with that, let's move on to diet. Tommy dropped the hammer a little bit today. I've been waiting for it probably for like the past 6 weeks or so for a big drop in calories, and we finally got it. Checked in Tuesday. We did a small dropped about 30 grams of carbs on training days, about 40 on non-training days. high day was initially left alone. That was after my high day. We did reduce the fiber sources beginning on Friday. That was after I did my daily check-in with him and gave him the feedback about things. And then this morning, after this check-in, pretty big drop across the board here. So on non-training days, another 15 grams of carbs. So that's 55 grams of carbs dropped this week in total. Another 40 grams of carbs dropped on training days. So that's 70 grams carbs dropped across this week. And then high day came down quite a bit, 95 grams of carbs. And it was at 480 before. So it's still a good amount of food. With that did come a slight drop in proteins and fats, mostly just through incidental, like the 1 or 2 grams of protein you get with a little bit of rice and stuff like that. So starting with my non-training day meals, you can see the changes that were made in the white text here. This MFer even reduced my blueberries. That was the one thing I was really hoping to hold on to, so that got dropped. A little bit disappointed with that, but it is what it is. Rice came down. It's one of our main carb sources. Obviously, removed a bit of fats from the whey meal that we have, and then you can look at the other meals there. I did rearrange these meals from last week, at least how they were presented, just to show you guys how I actually eat them on a given day. So this is actually the order that I eat the meals, I'd say about 90% of the time. Both my non-training days are on days in which I go to work, so it's pretty darn consistent, not a lot of change there. They are in this exact order basically every single day. It really does not change. Training day meals, I have 2 different setups for how I organize the meals. This is for when I train after work, which would be after 4 meals. So I'll train in the evening there, and you can see again the changes in white. Cream of rice, pineapple, rice, all got dropped. Also the post-workout shake dropped a little bit of carbs there. Reduce some of the fiber, from green beans. Also, like the Metamucil that I use for a bit of fiber. We reduced that. We cut that in half. I have that at nighttime. Again, just to improve gastric motility. So if you want to pause this video and see exactly what I'm eating, this is it. So on the weekend, I usually train after 1, sometimes 2 meals. Today was after 3 meals, kind of depends on what I have going on. Like I got called out for work at 6 a.m. this morning, so changed things a little bit. Depends on if I go to the gym with my wife or if I go on my own or what have you. You'll see the exact same changes and the exact same foods as my work days, just different order. So nothing really crazy to go drone on in detail here. This is the high day. You can see, pretty big drop in carbs across the board. Cream of rice, it was getting pretty high. 150 grams of cream of rice is a pretty good amount. Blueberries stayed the same, thankfully. So thank you for that one, Tommy. And then mostly rice in the 2 big rice meals that we have came down, as well as some of the other carb sources in the post-workout carbs. So that is it for this week. Got this one out on time, and we're digging for that last final push conditioning. Plan is to be stage ready around the 2-week out to 3-week out mark. So really only 2 to 3 more weeks of real digging, and then hopefully be able to back off things a little bit. Maybe reduce some cardio, cut it out, drop some of the fat burners, add some food back in, that sort of thing. And just hopefully have a nice smooth landing to prep, just like we did last time. And we'll see what the result is, though. Thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, work, grow, win.